Welcome to the Turf and Touchdowns podcast, week 6 of the NFL season, episode 41 of the Turf and Touchdowns podcast as well. And we're coming off the back of a fantastic week, the best one yet on the Turf and Touchdowns podcast. But we'll get to that in a moment. My name's Luke Elder, and as always, alongside some people call him many names, but I'm going to go undefeated friend Tom Collins this week. Tom, how are you?
Yeah, I'm very good. Week 5 was fantastic. Obviously, we had lots of winners. It was great for the podcast. I'm looking forward to week 6 already. But isn't it mad that we're already at week 6? I mean, we're a third of the way through the regular season already. It feels like just yesterday we were doing the anti-post podcast.
Yeah, exactly that. It's kind of sad because we know how short the NFL season is, but we still got 12 weeks left and then the playoffs. So we're fine on that side of things. However, we are also coming off our best ever week here on the Turf and Touchdowns podcast. If you're not a horse racing fan, go watch our horse racing video. You can still find winners on that. We managed to pick a 1-2 last week in the Cornwall Turf Mile. We did say on this podcast as well that we were going to put the winner up of that race, and we were absolutely right on that front. So hopefully we're going to do exactly the same again this week. We did that. We had a couple of winners on Thursday Night Football and a couple of terrible beats. And then last week on Sunday, we had a fantastic week, 7 out of 8, and I can't remember who put up the loser.
Oh, yeah. It might have been the guy who's wearing the long sleeve shirt.
And not a Seahawks jersey. Because at this point, if you're watching this, we've probably lost against San Francisco as well. So we might be 0-2 in the last couple of games. But the punishment is that we're not wearing Seahawks jerseys this week because we were absolutely dreadful last week. But we're not going to talk about that. What happened last week, though, Tom, is that, importantly, the joint play was in play. 2 from 2. Michael Pittman managed to find the end zone, so well done to both of us on that.
Yeah, I mean, Michael Pittman managed to get the job done early as well. It was the first drive for the Colts, and it was our big price selection, 9-4. You weighed in last minute when Flacco, it was prior to Flacco being confirmed to be starting QB, but with the premise that if Flacco plays, Pittman, anytime touchdown, you'll join me on the bet. Flacco did play. First drive, 1-yard touchdown catch. It was moment of pain-free. It was fantastic. Now, subsequently, Pittman's come out and is now injured and out for several weeks. So I feel like we struck at the right time.
Yeah, what's that Thanos scene? It's like something over the world. Well, what did it cost you? Everything.
Yeah.
That's basically Michael Pittman. It's like, you landed a joint play, but what did it cost you? My back. My back's gone. So he might be on IR. That's not been confirmed yet, but he's out for multiple weeks. But they are looking at whether he's on IR. We also, Tom, we're into week 5 for that one. But we managed to get our first ever play of the day joint landing. So we get to drink together. You get your appetizing drink. That looks lovely.
Appetizing sounds actually kind of like what it is. Appetizer. Yeah. I mean, it's a Thursday morning. I don't know what you're expecting me to have a beer.
I mean, well, that water just tasted divine.
Yeah.
It just tasted better, holier than normal, some would say. We also have a giveaway from last week. Thank you to everyone who commented. We had loads of people that entered, and we have done a random selection of who's managed to win, and I've forgotten who it was. It was Jules G99, who hopefully are England-based, because that's going to make things far, far easier for us. But at this point, if you are watching Jules, you will already been contacted. Unlucky to everyone else, we will be doing more giveaways throughout the course of the season. One thing about Jules as well, which I thought made this bittersweet, is that his comment, and by the way, I expected everyone just to comment, Dynamite. Well done to everyone for thinking outside.
It was fantastic, wasn't it? They were actually interesting comments.
100%. I think there were 2 people that just said Dynamite. And I'm not slagging them off because I would have done exactly the same.
Yeah.
Everyone's like, Dynamite episode, guys, brilliant. Even Tom's mum commented something along those lines. Unfortunately, Tom's mum couldn't win. But Jules said, love the Hubbard pick, and hopefully Tom can keep his form from Thursday. Excited to potentially see another joint play. Any news on Flacco? This episode was Dynamite for sure. Then he commented afterwards saying, I forgot to check if Flacco was playing and missed the joint play. Well in, lads.
What an absolute disaster.
So, Jules, sorry regarding last week, but he has informed me that he has now got notifications on our Twitter turned on because we'd update on there. But, Jules, well done. You get to choose between a Troy Polamalu jersey or a £25 free bet. But as I say, we will be in touch regards to that. Right, 7 out of 8 last week. Let's try and go 8 out of 8 this week because we have got 8 selections. We are kind of overlapping in quite a few games, but we're not actually going for the same or going against each other in any regard. We'll go to you first because you are taking the angle of the Luke Elder anti-post approach by one of Luke's please draft this guy.
Yeah. So we're starting obviously with the London game, like we did last week. We got a winning selection in the last week's London game. It was the under between the Vikings and the Jets. It was 4 hours of pure stress, so I'm not playing unders anymore, despite feeling that London games usually always hit the unders. I'm just going to go with the player prop, and it's going to be Christian Kirk, a guy who you liked pre-season, as you say. He hasn't really kind of performed to the level we were expecting so far, mainly due to the emergence of Brian Thomas and the fact that Jaguars just haven't been very good. The last 2 weeks, Christian Kirk's been a lot better, but at the start of the season, he was very hit and miss, but more miss. This week, the line for him is over 4.5 receptions against the Bears. Jacksonville play Bears, 2:30 p.m. UK time on Sunday. And I think he's going to hit the overs, over 4.5. I think he's going to get 5+. That's currently available at 5-6, which obviously is a little bit on the shorter side. Usually you get 10 to 11 for player props like this, but 5-6 I think is very fair on this number. Now, Christian Kirk has played in London 3 times for the Jaguars. In those games, he received 7 targets against the Broncos in 2022, 12 targets against Atlanta last year, and 8 targets against the Buffalo Bills last year. They played 2 back-to-back games for a total of 15 catches. And obviously a hell of a load more targets, as I've just listed there. They always seem to use Christian Kirk in London games. I don't know why. Maybe he just likes London. But they tend to use him all the time. Now, obviously this year, as I've already said, the Jags have added Brian Thomas. So Kirk's workload and target share comes dramatically down. That being said, I still think Kirk's going to be used a great deal. He will take advantage of this Bears defense because the Bears pass defense is exceptionally good, considering how good the Bears are on the whole. But they're going to be focusing on Brian Thomas and also stopping the run. So I think Christian Kirk will be one-on-one for most of the game. And if they play zone, he'll be able to take advantage in the middle of the field. Kirk has had 8 catches, 7 catches, and 4 catches over the last 3 weeks. Almost all of those hits the over, apart from the 4, which would have been one short. And I really just like him to hit over 4.5 in this matchup in the London game. If you're going to London to watch this game on Sunday, play Christian Kirk over 4.5 receptions at 5-6.
And send us some pictures as well. That would be great. Let's see what everyone's doing in regards to the London game. One thing that you shouldn't do, though, is do what every single NFL team does when they land in England and go, just touchdown in London town. Like, come on. A bit of originality would be absolutely fantastic on this part. DJ Moore, I'm looking at you. Something different, please. You're going to get used to playing in London. But I'm also focusing on the London game. We're going to try and get 2 winners in early. And it is a bit of a head scratcher on this one because Jacksonville, they've been a bit funny in regards to the run game recently. Doug Peterson's come out and said, nope, Tank Bigsby is not our guy. Travis Etienne is absolutely our guy. It might be a bit of a bluff. Doug Peterson has been known to bend the truth a little bit. But Travis Etienne is also getting quite a few looks, and he's getting plenty of work. I know last week Tank Bigsby might have taken over in the rushing game. Travis Etienne still had 7 targets, so he's still being looked at plenty. He caught 6 of them as well. And if you look inside the red zone, he's still their guy in that regard. Look, inside the 20, he's had 13 carries so far this year. He's had 8 carries inside the 10. Inside the 5, he's had 3 carries. He's converted 2 of them into touchdowns. Whereas Tank Bigsby, bizarrely, you would sort of think that he would be the better red zone / inside the 5 guy. That's not really been the case. Inside the 5, he's only had 3 carries. He's got 2 yards on them, but he's not managed to convert into a touchdown. Now, that said, he is turning into a much better running back the entire time. Possibly Tank Bigsby does manage to find the end zone. I did toy with putting both of these guys up as an anytime touchdown scorer because I can see both of them finding the end zone because Chicago are rubbish against the run. We mention it every week. Travis Etienne is 11-10. That is the selection for anytime touchdown, but Tank Bigsby is 6-4. I wouldn't put anyone off in that regard, but you look at Chicago against the run in recent weeks. We attacked them last week with Chuba Hubbard. He found the end zone and also 97 yards. Kyron Williams, 94 yards and a touchdown the week prior to that. They are just a very, very easy team to run on. Jonathan Taylor and Trey Sermon managed to run all over them the week prior to that. It's just a defense where for some reason they just cannot stop the run. I'm going to focus on Travis Etienne, and if Tank Bigsby finds the end zone instead of Travis Etienne, Tom, I will cry, but I still think Travis Etienne is a very, very good play.
Yeah, well, I'm hoping Etienne does well this week as well because I'm kind of on my last bit of trust with him in one of my fantasy leagues. So hopefully he gets into the end zone, gets me some points there. Tank Bigsby's a fascinating running back. I've got him in another fantasy league. So either way, I'll be happy. But hopefully for your sake, Etienne, gets the job done. I'll go straight into my second selection. We're on to the 6 p.m. kickoffs now, UK time. And it's going to be a running back, very similar kind of running back to Etienne, very powerful between the tackles kind of running back. And it's going to be Josh Jacobs for the Green Bay Packers. They play the Arizona Cardinals this week. Josh Jacobs' line for rushing yards is over 69.5, over under 69.5. I like the over here. 10 to 11 odds. I think it's a good bet. He just needs 70 plus. And it just seems very likely that Josh Jacobs is going to do that. I mean, one, I like the Packers to beat the Cardinals and lead for most of the game. So Jacobs is going to get a workload. Two, he's been getting the workload anyway. I mean, if you look at the games this season, Josh Jacobs is averaging 18 carries a game. He's amassed over 400 total yards. That's around 80 yards per game, which even if he just averages that again, he's hitting the over by 10 yards here. He's getting the workload. He's producing. If Green Bay are going to win this game, they're going to have to rely on Josh Jacobs. Obviously, we've got a fantastic passing offense. We've got Jaden Reed. Dontavian Wicks has kind of come out of the pack recently, despite his hands not being great. Tucker Kraft, very good and promising tight end. Jordan Love has been fantastic. But we're going to have to rely upon Jacobs to move the sticks. And I just really like him to get 70-plus yards. The Cardinals are extremely vulnerable against the run. Even though the 49ers last week, for some random reason, decided not to really exploit that with Jordan Mason, and he still went for 89 yards. Prior to that, we've had plenty of running backs just run all over the Cardinals. I won't list them, but you can go check them out if you want. So I'm going to put up, as my first 6 p.m. bet, Josh Jacobs over 69.5 rushing yards for the Green Bay Packers against the Arizona Cardinals at 10 to 11.
I like that. I like that. Arizona are not fantastic against the run. As I say, we exploited that last week with Jordan Mason as well, who he limped over it because San Francisco decided to try and rest him for the Seahawks game, but he still managed to get over the 85.5, I think the line was. You mentioned Dontavian Wicks. I saw a brilliant meme last week regarding Dontavian Wicks because we sort of clocked on the fact that he couldn't catch anything before I think anyone else did, because I was listening to podcasts and they clocked onto it last week. I was like, no, you look back like the week before, he was terrible. The film, I think it's Draft Day, the one that's got Jonah Hill in it.
Yeah,
you know, they're at the whiteboard. And it's like, this guy is so and so. He's really, really good. The one problem is this. The thing was with Dontavian Wicks, like, this is Dontavian Wicks. He is a breakout young wide receiver for a fantastic offense. The one problem is he plays football like you're not allowed to use your hands.
He literally has pans for hands. He's incredible at route running, and he's always open. He just can't catch the ball, which is a problem. But hopefully he gets better at that in the future. As a Packers fan, I'd like to see Wicks actually catch the ball.
He's the sort of guy, just throw him 16 balls every game. He's going to catch 8 of them, and he'll look good on those 8. The other 8 will be absolutely dreadful. But yeah, let's not pick on Dontavian Wicks too much because he is producing at the moment. But just catch a few more, maybe a bit of like stickum on your gloves. That'll be fine. I'm going to move on to the similar sort of game, regards to the Houston Texans, who I can see having a very productive week once again against the Patriots. Obviously, they are without Nico Collins. That's going to be a slight concern for their offense as a whole. But to be fair, they went out, they got Stephon Diggs, and as a result, I don't think their offense will really struggle that much. Obviously, Nico Collins is their alpha; he is their one, and they are gonna miss that sort of side of things. But they've got Tank Dell to come in. Back end of last year, Tank Dell was absolutely fantastic until they decided to use him as a blocker at the goal line and he broke his leg. And that was his season done. In the off-season, he was involved in some sort of altercation with a gun or a gunshot as well. So he missed a little bit of time regarding that. But you were wondering what was going to happen to Tank Dell this year in regards as is Stephon Diggs going to take over? And his snap percentage has struggled. It's dropped this season. It's not gone above 69% this year. The last 4 games before injury last season, when it was effectively him and Nico Collins, he managed snap percentage shares of 85%, 96%, 76%, and 80%, bringing in that time span 11 targets, 14 targets, 10, and 8 targets. So he was far more utilised in the game last year. His yards per target this year has not gone above 10 once, which is very unlike Tank Dell. You look at last year, he was in excess of 10 yards per target in 4 of the last 8 games. And he was the kind of guy that CJ Stroud, if he was ever in need, he'd run around and he'd just launch it downfield. And Tank Dell always seemed to be open. As I say, Nico Collins is now on IR. His targets will go up. And the bigger positive, Tom, is that our bookmakers have now priced up this line.
Have they?
They have. They have.
Right.
Last night, I was having a panic. I was like, I need to put this bet up because this is likely going to be our player of the day. It is. But DraftKings were the only people to put the line up of 54.5. In England, we've gone 55.5. That's absolutely fine. It is no issue at all. At 10 to 11, I think Tank Dell will go over 55.5. Annoyingly, I think this is the Tank Dell breakout week. I say annoyingly because I'm against him in fantasy football, which I'm not overly pleased with. But I think Tank Dell has a massive week, Tom.
Yeah, I do as well. And to be honest, I got my selections in for the podcast exceptionally early this week. If I saw the Tank Dell line when I put my selections in, I probably would have gone with him as well. But I'm sticking with the 4 I've got in total. I've only given 2 so far. But I do think Tank Dell's going to have a great week. They're going to just rely upon him a lot. Stephon Diggs on the outside is all well and good, but Tank Dell is a big player for the Houston offense. And yeah, I'm pretty sure you're going to be celebrating another player of the day winning SIP here. Shall we talk about the Lions?
Let's talk about the Lions. They're fun to talk about.
Yeah, so we both got a selection in the Lions v Cowboys game this week. They're different selections, but they kind of go together a little bit. Same offense. My bet is going to be an anytime touchdown bet. Everyone who watches the podcast must know that I love an anytime touchdown bet. Not too many because they're pretty hard to predict, but last week we struck a nice one with Michael Pittman. Hopefully we can do so again this Sunday with Amon-Ra St. Brown. He's 5-4 to score a touchdown against the Cowboys, which I think is great odds. I thought it'd be odds on, to be honest. This game just looks like it could be a shootout. It has that feeling. These are 2 high-powered offenses, 2 defenses that have been a little bit underwhelming so far this year, especially the Cowboys. The Cowboys have struggled with a lot of injuries, Micah Parsons being one, plenty in the secondary as well. But they've looked, quite frankly, terrible on occasion, especially in week 2 against the New Orleans Saints, who I think put up 44 points against them. And virtually every drive that Derek Carr had the ball, he was just going deep to Rashid Shaheed and getting chunk yardage. Since then, they've played 2 poor teams, the Cowboys. They played the Giants and they played the Steelers. Both of their offenses are shocking. Sorry, Luke, for a Giants reference, even when they've beaten your Seahawks. But now they're playing the Lions, who are just much better than the Giants and the Steelers on offense. I think Jared Goff's going to have time to pick apart this defense. Amon-Ra St. Brown is the guy they go to. He is their safety blanket. He will catch 8 to 10 balls in this matchup. Hopefully one of those will be a touchdown. He had 10 touchdowns last year. This isn't a guy that just gets yardage in the middle of the field. This is a guy they use in the red zone. They use on long plays to try and get touchdowns. He's had 2 touchdowns so far this season in his last 2 weeks. He'll be heavily used, fresh off the early bye week. He had 7 red zone targets across his first 4 games. Amon-Ra St. Brown is going to be a candidate here for an anytime touchdown. And I'm shocked that he's actually odds against at 5-4.
I'm going to boost your confidence here. Do you know how many targets Amon-Ra St. Brown has had inside the 10? Out of those 7?
Is it, I don't know, but is it 5?
4. How many of those has he caught?
Is it 3?
4.
Okay, good.
He's caught all of them. He's turned 2 of them into touchdowns.
Yeah.
Amon-Ra St. Brown catches whatever you throw near him. I am fully on board with that. Well, I noticed that stat because I was looking at DJ Moore anytime. And I initially read, wow, DJ Moore has caught 4 targets inside the 10. And then I look back, I was like, oh no, it's Amon-Ra St. Brown. DJ Moore caught 1 out of 1. And to be fair, 1 for a touchdown. But yeah, Amon-Ra St. Brown, I think he'll be okay in that game. I think that this will be a game that we can try and exploit regards to bets as well, because I'm also playing in this game. I went through this expecting to put up David Montgomery. And I even had down David Montgomery over 57.5 rushing yards. And as I was doing it, I was realizing this is possibly a Jahmyr Gibbs game. And Jahmyr Gibbs over 57.5 rushing yards is exactly the same line. 10 to 11 at the moment. Look, the Lions, they're well rested. They had the early bye week. They're going to be absolutely fine in regards to that. The Cowboys are beaten up as well on defense. They've got a whole host of names that are out. The main one being Micah Parsons. That's a big problem, especially when you're taking on an O-line that's as good as the Detroit Lions. And the Cowboys, a big thing's been made about them against the run. They have been okay in some games against the run. They came off an okay game against Najee Harris. But against elite running games, they really, really struggle. Derrick Henry, 25 carries he was allowed for 151 yards and 2 touchdowns. In that game as well, Justice Hill had 6 carries for 33 yards. Both of them in that game were over 6 yards per carry. Alvin Kamara, 20 carries, 115 yards and 3 touchdowns. They struggle against elite run games. That is exactly what Detroit are. And weirdly, Detroit have turned into a real run-first team. I think in the majority of their games this year, they've gone more regards to the rush rather than the pass, which is kind of the opposite of what we saw last year. As I say, the Cowboys defense is beaten up. Deron Bland is back at cornerback. That might push them more towards the run in regards to Detroit. He's been far more explosive as well as Jamar Gibbs than David Montgomery. You kind of expect that. He's averaged over 5 yards per carry in the last 3 games. And as I say, Detroit are running the ball more. I like Jahmyr Gibbs over 57.5 rushing yards at 10-11. And I know, Tom, that Jahmyr Gibbs is also one of your guys, so to speak.
Yeah, I've loved Jameer Gibbs ever since college days when he used to play for Alabama. He's in plenty of my fantasy teams, and I genuinely just think he's a better running back than Montgomery. I know Montgomery's very good. He would be in the top 10 to 15 running backs in the league, but Gibbs is way more explosive. Just give the ball to Jameer. I like it. I like it a lot. I feel like we're agreeing without agreeing on this podcast, if that makes sense.
Yeah, we're sort of high-fiving from the other side of the
Yeah.
road.
Maybe that's just because we've had so much success in the last week. We've got to
Yeah.
support each other.
Now, what bet have you got? I like that as well. Go. But I'm going to do my own thing, if you don't mind. I'm going to do... what game have you got your final selection in, Tom?
Primetime. It's got to be the primetime game. Every week I always put a selection in the primetime game because there's nothing quite like a Sunday night. And we always get to 1 a.m. We're talking on WhatsApp about the NFL. And Sunday night comes on and it's we go again. So we both got a selection for this matchup. It's going to be the Bengals against the Giants. That's the game up in New York. I really like Cincinnati here. And I'm going to play them against the spread. Bengals minus 3.5 at 10-11 is my pick here. I don't believe in the New York Giants. Malik Neighbors aside. Now, I don't know if Malik Neighbors is going to play. I think he is. But he was still in concussion protocol on the Wednesday this week. And obviously he had a concussion, not the Sunday just gone, but the Sunday before that. So there is a bit of a worry there. But I think he's going to err on the side of playing from what I've seen on social media. They have Wan'Dale Robinson aside, but he's just a PPR monster. He's not a guy that's going to be playing, making big plays for this offense. He's just going to get numerous short yardage catches, rack them up and try and move the chains. Apart from that, where is the offense here in New York? Their running game is okay, but I just feel like the numbers have flattered them, if that makes sense. I don't think the running game is good enough to be getting the average numbers they've been getting over the last 2 weeks. The O-line's awful. Dan Jones is awful. The defense is hit and miss. It's okay. It's not terrible, but it's also not great. Now, Cincinnati had a terrible start to the season, but, big but here, they looked better last week against the Baltimore Ravens. They end up losing the game, but they should have won. There was a mess up on the winning field goal handle from the long snap, which led to Evan McPherson missing the kick. They were the better team throughout the whole game, 1 minute aside, the last minute, and then overtime, Baltimore went on to win. That was like Cincy of last year or the year before when they make that playoff run. If they perform like that, they are going to hammer the Giants this week. I imagine 7+ points minimum. They'll win this game. Now, the question is, are they going to play like that again? I think so. They've got Jamar Chase back at his very best. T. Higgins back healthy. The running game seems to be working. Joey Burrow seems to be back where he needs to be at in a headspace and determined to get victories. Plus, this team is 1-4. They have to win. They literally have to win. If they lose, they're in trouble of not actually making the playoffs at all. So the Bengals are going to really produce here. The Giants are rubbish. The Bengals will win by over 4 points. That's why I want the Bengals minus 3.5 at 10-11.
I think there's a case to be made about the Giants not being rubbish.
Is it that they beat your Seahawks?
Yeah, that's the main one. That's the main one. But it doesn't matter because as we're talking, we're going to be off the back of a Seattle Seahawks beating of the San Francisco 49ers because that will make plenty of sense in the Seattle world. But I'm focusing in the same game as well. And we are waiting all day for Sunday night. No. We're waiting all day for a Chase Brown score because I think Chase Brown will find the end zone. I don't think Zach Moss will play in this game. Even if he does, I don't think he'll be used a great deal. He got hurt last week. He injured his ankle. He apparently has avoided a serious injury. I still think he might miss 1 week, though. He did not practice on Wednesday. That generally isn't a fantastic sign. Thursday's going to be the crucial one for him. If, let's say, we're recording on Thursday, if he practices on Thursday, then sure, he will be able to likely play. But I think Chase Brown is going to be lent on a lot more regardless. So at 11 to 10, I quite like him to find the end zone. The Giants are a funny one because they're not great against the run, but then their stats for the last few games haven't been too bad. But let's go back to the start of the season, which isn't that long ago. Against good running backs, they do struggle. Aaron Jones, 14 carries for 94 yards and a touchdown. Brian Robinson, who's had a fantastic season so far for the Commanders, he had a very, very big game against the Giants. 17 carries, 133 yards. Didn't find the end zone, but I think that was the game that nobody in Washington found the end zone, and they got 7 field goals. Austin Eckler also looked good in that game as well, 8 for 38. You could argue they've sorted it out recently, but I really don't think they have. They came up against a horrible Cleveland offense where Jerome Ford did fine. They came up against the Cowboys where, again, the Cowboys are working things out in that primetime match. Rico Dowdle did fine. He landed the overs for us on that game, but he didn't excel. And then last week, I don't know what the Seahawks were doing. For whatever reason, they just didn't call any run plays. Ken Walker had 5 carries. I think Zach Charbonnet had the 4 carries. And no, in fact, 2 carries, which is even worse. But I don't know. I don't know what Seattle were doing. I still think this Giants run game is exploitable. And I think Chase Brown will find the end zone. It's something that he has done quite a lot recently as well. He had a couple of touchdowns a couple of weeks ago. He found the end zone last week. He's not just a play in the rushing game. He's also a play in the receiving game as well. So I like Chase Brown. I'm a Chase Brown fantasy manager in 2 of my leagues, Tom. And the patience has been worth it because I think he's a very, very good running back.
I'm very hopeful that you're going to land that win and with Chase Brown getting a touchdown, and I am going to land my Bengals -3.5, and it's going to be the best Sunday night there's ever been. I'm hopeful of that. Should we run through the plays, the picks this week?
Let's do that.
Cool. By the way, for anyone that comments saying, what are we putting up? You can either watch the whole video, please do. That would be very much appreciated from both of us. Or you can just skip to the end. We always round up our selections towards the end, but please do watch the whole video.
You know what? You know what I think is a better idea? Watch the end, but then just leave the phone on the side and just stream it the whole way through. Just what are you doing? Whatever, something else, whatever. I don't know what you're doing. That's fine. You do you. That's okay. Just leave your phone there. That's cool.
Absolutely. But we do give good reasoning for our selections. But anyway, no one really cares about that. Yes, 4 picks this week. I had 5 last Sunday, 4 this Sunday. We start with the London game at 2:30. The Jaguars playing the Bears. I like Christian Kirk over 4.5 receptions at 5-6. Then in the Packers versus Cardinals game, Josh Jacobs over 69.5 rushing yards. That's at 10-11. In the Lions-Cowboys, I like Amon-Ra St. Brown anytime touchdown at 5-4. And then in the primetime game between the Bengals and the Giants, Bengals -3.5 at 10-11. And that is my play of the day.
My play of the day is going to be the very first one that I'm going to mention here. Tank Dell over 55.5 receiving yards. That's 10-11. Love that line. I think Tank Dell was a big week. Jahmyr Gibbs over 57.5 rushing yards at 10-11. Again, love that. Jahmyr Gibbs has looked fantastic so far this year. And then we're going to go for 2 anytime touchdowns. Chase Brown at 11-10. And we'll go in the London game, Travis Etienne to hopefully still be the guy, also at 11-10. Hopefully, we can improve on last week, Tom. Instead of 7 out of 8, we'll go 8 out of 8.
That would be phenomenal. To be fair, we have higher aspirations and expectations. 8 out of 8 this week would be a bit ridiculous after last week. But if we can even get 7 out of 8 like last week, I think we'll be 2 very happy guys.
Absolutely. And well done to everyone who followed this in last week. It was great to see so many of you betting alongside us and winning alongside us as well. We very much hope that it's more of the same this week. Don't forget to subscribe to us. Thank you to everyone who did that last week. You're very welcome on a Turf and Touchdowns podcast. Up to 231 subscribers now, Tom.
Yeah, we're up to... Is the end this week 250?
I think 250.
Yeah, come on, guys. Click that red button.
Tell your friends. If you leave a comment down below as well, leaving us your best plays, that would be absolutely fantastic. Thank you to everyone who got involved last week. We're now looking forward to this week on the Turf and Touchdowns podcast. Until we next get the chance to speak to you, stay safe, look after one another,